There you all are. Hi. Yes. Dun, 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 dun. It's a grand old flag. Do I have a red? I don't have a red, white, and blue bonnet. I have a blue bonnet. We're going blue. There. Thing. It's blue. That's very blue. Look at that with little like daisy things on it. This is some Marjorie bonnet. Good. Yes, I like it. Hello. There you all are. Hi. This thing's like too tight. Do. Yes, we're reading. So yes, we're sort of alternating. You get like some Alonzo, and then you get me, and then a Manzo, and then me. Happy 4th of July! Why, yes, it is the 4th of July. It is the day of independence. And as you remember in the chapter when they all went to a 4th of July party, Laura stayed home. She didn't go to the fireworks. She stayed home and studied the Constitution. And you can too. Yes, I found this marvelous website. It's the transcription. It's www. Do you love the reading glasses? www.archives, that's ARCHIVES, archives.gov/founding docs. You can go there. You just Google Constitution of the United States, archives.gov. They have the Constitution of the United States, they have the Declaration of Independence, and you can put them and you can read them on the 4th of July. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Ta-da! There you go. It's really long. The rest of it is really, really long. But you knew that. But yes, you can go online and you can read the whole darn thing. It's marvelous. You can read it all. Declaration of Independence. Now, I had to memorize this in school. I had to do not the whole thing, but I had to do the first part in the 5th grade. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. And that's 4th of July, 1776. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires they should declare the causes which impel them to separation. And then they do, for pages and pages. It's yeah, I did watch Hamilton last night on Disney Plus. And did you love the King George with the spit on the lip? Whoever watch it is cracking up about how King George was totally doing a Nellie Oleson thing, and he had spit on his lip. But it was kind of hysterical. I highly recommend it. Also, 1776 is on all weekend. You can watch all the great American movies. But yes, you can go on the web and you can download, if you don't have it in a book already, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, and be like Laura Ingalls and stay home and study your Constitution on the 4th of July. Amazing! In addition to being the 4th of July, yes, it is also National Caesar Salad Day. I didn't know that was an American rare thing. It is also a National Barbecued Spare Ribs Day, which kind of makes sense. I am barbecuing. Bob and I are barbecuing. No one's coming over, but we're barbecuing. Hot dogs. We're having hot dogs, and I'm making potato salad, and we're going to have corn on the cob and beans. It's very, very rah-rah American 4th of July thing. It is also Hop a Park Day, first Saturday in July. That's not a Disneyland park hopper ticket. That's Hop a Park. It just means go to the park. I'm not sure you can go to the park. Well, you can't go to Disneyland, and you can't go to the beach. But there's parks. There you go. Oh, Thomas Jefferson. Yes, someone saying, oh yes, Jefferson. So yeah, absolutely. If you have the Disney Plus, you have a friend who has the Disney Plus. The Hamilton thing is great. 1776 is great. All the good states, all the patriotic stuff. It's all on. And of course, I said there's my Canadian father. My family were totally Canadian. So, but we had Canada Day on the 1st. It was awesome. So I have graham crackers and goldfish. What could be more American than goldfish? And my little tin cup of milk. apple pie and lemonade. No. Beer. There could be lemonade. Oh, I'm probably going to make a pie thing with like ice cream and blueberries and raspberries. I'm going to make like a red, white, and blue dessert. Awesome. I'll put pictures of the food. Okie dokie. And yes, of course, there is a Little House on the Prairie episode called Centennial. That was really cool. We did the episode Centennial where we put up the flagpole in the middle of Walnut Grove. And it was cool because it was 1976, which was the bicentennial, which is the big deal that year with all the t-shirts and get your bicentennial commemorative. And so we did Centennial. Oh, yeah. It's very clever. So we're still doing Happy Golden Years. And yes, we made it through springtime. And now a story in number 14, Holding Down a Claim. And 15, Mary Comes Home. Oh, and then, like, tomorrow we're going to get more Almanzo. We'll go back and forth. And then it's going to be, like, all Almanzo because it's, like, proposing marriage and whatnot. So, Holding Down a Claim. I think we're getting more Uncle Tom stories. Kooky Uncle Tom, who Almanzo thought was, like, the new boyfriend. Ew, what? Okay. Holding Down a Claim. Uncle Tom went east on the train next morning. When Laura came home from school at noon, he was gone. No sooner had he gone, said Ma, that Mrs. McKee came. She is in distress, Laura, and she asked me if you would help her out. Why, of course I will if I can, Laura said. What is it? Ma said that hard as Mrs. McKee had worked at dressmaking all that winter, the McKees could not afford to move onto their claim yet. Mr. McKee must keep his job at the lumber yard until they save money enough to buy tools and seed and stock. He wanted Mrs. McKee to take their little girl, Maddie, and live on the claim that summer to hold it. You have to live on a claim. You can't just say, well, I got this claim, free land for the government, and now I'm going to go work in town. They did that because they knew that even then, real estate speculators, corporations, all sorts of people would go buy up 5, 10, 20 claims, not even live and just hang on to them and then like sell them and build condos. It's the 1800s version. And they said, no, this has got to be individual people and you got to live on the darn thing. So he's like, got to send the kids out. So he wants to send her and the kid out to go live on the claim there. Mrs. McKee said she would not live out there on the prairie all alone with no one but Mattie. She said they could lose the claim first. It was like scary. She don't want to do it. I don't know why she's so nervous about it, said Ma, but it seems she is. It seems that being all alone, miles from anybody, scares her. Well, duh. So, as she told me, Mr. McKee said he would let the claim go. Oh no, that's kind of terrible. After he went to work, she was thinking it over, and she came to tell me that if you would go with her, she would go hold down the claim. She said she would give you $1 a week just to stay with her as one of the family. $1 a week just to, like, hang out. And she likes Mrs. McKee. Mrs. McKee's not the kooky, Clancy lady with the yelling and screaming. Mrs. McKee is the nice dressmaker lady, so this might not be a bad thing. You can always get into town. It's not winter. It's, like, pleasant, I think. Oh, boy. Where's the claim? Pa inquired. It is some little distance north of Manchester, said Ma. Manchester was a new little town west of De Smet. Well, that sounds kind of far. Well, do you want to go, Laura? Pa asked her. I guess so, Laura said. I'll have to miss the rest of school, but I can make that up, and I'd like to go on earning something. The McKees are nice folks, and it would be a real accommodation to them. So you may go if you want to, Pa decided. You could probably do some more seamstressing out there, too. It would be a pity, though, for you to miss Mary's visit home, Ma worried. Maybe if I just get Mrs. McKee settled on the claim and used to it, I could come home long enough to see Mary, Laura pondered. Well, if you want to go, best go, Ma said. We needn't cross a bridge till we come to it. Likely, it will work out all right somehow. Well, it's not that far. I mean, she'd go back and forth, I suppose. So the next morning, Laura rode with Mrs. McKee and Maddie on the train to Manchester. Oh, it's far. Oh, they took the train. Yeah. Or people, is my video freezing? It looks good here. I don't know. It's 4th of July. Everybody's home and on the internet. They're jamming it up, I'll tell you. So they had to take the train. So that means, yeah, it's far. She had been on the cars once before when she came west from Plum Creek, so she felt like a seasoned traveler as she followed the brakeman with her satchel down the aisle to a seat. It was not as though she knew nothing about trains. Remember, she was scared if a train even went by because it was like scary, futuristic aliens. It's like she couldn't deal with it. It's like, oh no, a train! Ah! Now she's like, yeah, riding the train. Dum-dum-dum. It was a 7-mile journey to Manchester. They took a train to go 7 miles. Walk 7 miles. I did ride a bike. What's 7 miles like now but by car? It's like that's to the store. it's like a minute. It's like a few minutes. It's down the street. Took a train to go 7 miles. Okay. What are you going to do? There the trainsman unloaded Mrs. McKee's furniture from the boxcar in front of the passenger coach, and a teamster loaded it onto his wagon. But before he had finished, the hotel keeper was banging his iron triangle with a spike to call any strangers to dinner. So Mrs. McKee and Laura and Maddie ate dinner in the hotel. They went 7 miles by train. What is it? How long is 7 miles on the train? What, you get on, you go, yeah, someone just, I ran 8 miles this morning. 7 miles on the train. Like, you get on the train, you sit down, it'd be the next stop. This is, how slow were they going? And then they had to go, like, to a hotel for dinner, because it's like, oh my God, it was so far, they couldn't go to the house. Wow, well, it was slow, going by cart and horse and oxen and all that, unless you had a cutter, like Almanzo. It was slow. It took forever to go 7 miles. Yeesh. Soon afterward, the teamster drove the loaded wagon to the door and helped them climb up to sit on top of the load among the rolls of bedding, the kitchen stove, the table, and the chairs and the trunk, and boxes of provisions. Mrs. McKee rode in the seat with the teamster. Sitting with their feet hanging down at the side of the wagon, Laura and Maddie clung to each other and to the ropes that bound the load to the wagon as the team drew it bumping over the prairie. There was no road. The wagon wheels sank into the sod in places where it was soft from the melting snow, and the wagon and its load lurched from side to side. But it went very well until they came to a slough. Here, where the ground was lower, water stood in pools among the coarse slough grass. I don't know about this, the teamster said, looking ahead. It looks pretty bad, but there's no way around. We'll just have to try it. Maybe we can go across so quick the wagon won't have time to sink down. Yeah, I don't know, man. As they came nearer to the slough, he said, hang on, everybody. Oh, no, I just sneezed on camera. Okay, I didn't sneeze at you. You can't get germs through the internet, luckily. I sneezed right, like, all over you. Pardon moi. I know my clinic's here. But it's wrong. I was tested the other day, so I don't have it in here. Oh, there we go. Oh. Sniffle, sniffle. Heavens! Sneezing all over the place. Oh, no. Now, he's just going to kind of whip across this here slough, but which we know that could be a quicksand thing. This may be bad. As they came nearer to the slough, he said, hang on, everybody. He picked up his whip and shouted to the horses. They went fast and faster, till urged on by his shouts and the whip that broke into a run. Water rose up like wings from the jouncing wagon wheels, while Laura hung onto the ropes and to Maddie with all her might. Then all was quiet. Safe on the other side of the slough, the teamster stopped the horses to rest. I'm amazed. Well, we made it, he said. The wheels just didn't stay in one place long enough to settle through the sod. If a fellow got stuck in there, he'd be stuck for keeps. It was no wonder that he seemed relieved, for as Laura looked back across the slough, she could see no wagon tracks. They were covered with water. Driving on across the prairie, they came finally to a little new claim shanty standing alone. About a mile away to the west was another, and far away to the east, they could barely see a third. This is the place, ma'am, the teamster said. I'll unload and then haul you a jag of hay to burn. A jag? A jag of hay? There's a new one. A jag of hay to burn from that place a mile west. Fellow that had it last summer quit and went back east, but I see he left some haystacks there. He unloaded the wagon into the shanty and set up the cook stove. Then he drove away to get the hay. A partition cut the shanty into 2 tiny rooms. Mrs. McKee and Laura set up a bedstead in the room with the cook stove and another in the other room. With the table, 4 small wooden chairs, and the trunk, they filled the little house. "I'm glad I didn't bring anything more," said Mrs. McKee. "Yes, as Ma would say, enough is as good as a feast," Laura agreed. The teamster came with a load of hay, then drove away toward Manchester. Now there were the 2 straw ticks to fill with hay, the beds to make, and dishes to be unpacked. Then Laura twisted hay into sticks from the little stack behind the shanty, and then Mattie carried it in to keep the fire going while Mrs. McKee cooked supper. Mrs. McKee did not know how to twist hay, but Laura had learned during the hard winter. As twilight came over the prairie, coyotes began to howl, and Mrs. McKee locked the door and saw that the windows were fastened. I'm not sure that coyotes will come through your window. The coyotes or your door. I mean, you want to go out, there's coyote. We have coyotes here, because, California. I'm kind of up in the woods here, Tonga, and we do have coyotes. Sometimes at night, we do hear the whole bit, and we don't let the cat outside. Small dogs, small cats, it's very bad. The coyotes will eat them. And if the coyotes are very, 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 very hungry, like it's a terrible drought or something, or there's been a fire and they're coming out, sometimes they will get bold and go after, like, grown people. There's been a few, But generally, up here, they have the whole forest, they kind of hide. And they come, will they come through a dog? Oh! Now, Ellen says coyotes will come through the doggy door. They will, if they're very bold. They'd be very bold. They'd have to be bold. But you know where they're scary? Hollywood coyotes. Not making this up. There's coyotes in the Hollywood Hills, which are really quite, if you don't live here and don't know about this, the Hollywood Hills are in the city. They're very much urban city, but they're these mountains. And we have coyotes in the city. And so if you can be literally on Hollywood Boulevard, just a few blocks down from the Chinese theater on the, like, residential part. And if it's early in the morning, coyotes can come down sometimes out of the canyon, and they'll be right there in the street. So there are and they do not care. They do not care about people. They will come right down the city, and they're not afraid of anything. And they would come through doggy door. I don't think these little guys up here are going to come through the doggy door. They're more wild. They stay away from people. But I'm not sure I wouldn't feel like I had to lock my door to keep the coyotes out. I don't think they can turn the knob. I don't think they're tall enough. I don't know. Maybe the coyotes in South Dakota can stand up and turn a doorknob. I don't know. That would be a little, but she's bolting the door. And she is a little bit terrified here. So she says, the windows are fast. And then poor Mrs. McKee. I don't know why the law makes us do this, she said. What earthly good it does to make a woman stay on a claim all summer. It's a bet, Pa says, Laura answered. The government bets a man a quarter section of land that he can't stay on it 5 years without starving to death. Well, that's a charming bet. Nobody could, says Mrs. McKee. Whoever makes these laws ought to know that a man that's got enough money to farm, he's got enough money to buy a farm. If he hasn't got money, he's got to earn it. So why do they make a law he's got to stay on the claim when he can't? All it means is his wife and family have got to sit idle on it 7 months of the year. I could be earning something, dressmaking, to help buy tools and seeds if somebody didn't have to sit on this claim. I declare to goodness, I don't know, but sometimes I believe in women's rights. If women were voting and making laws, I believe they'd have better sense. Is that wolves? Out of nowhere. I believe women should have the vote. Is that wolves? That was, like, crazy. No, Laura said, it's only coyotes. They won't hurt anybody. She has a point. If women had more representation at that time, probably the fact that a lot of them had to sit alone on the claim while the men stayed in town would have been brought up, that it was scary and dangerous, and that might have come up in the conversation. There you go. Now, here's the thing. So these people are doing well in town. Why not just stay in town and work build a house in town. Why do you want to farm? Do. And yes, you would have to farm to earn money, and you can't. So you would live like the Ingalls in the first couple of books where they starved all the time. So it's kind of like, do you do both? Do you work in town? Hence the modern concept of the suburbs and commuting. Now, if they had a cutter like Almanzo, they could live on the claim and commute to work in town, which is kind of what a lot of people do now, is live out in the countryside and commute to work. I think that's kind of how that got started. But yes, the claim, the idea was that you were to farm. The idea was that you weren't working in town, you farm. But as she said, kind of hard to do and actually make enough money to not starve. There you go. Is that wolves? Just the coyotes. They were all so tired that they did not light the lamp but went to bed. Laura and Maddie in the kitchen and Mrs. McKee in the front room. When everyone was quiet, the loneliness seemed to come into the shanty. Laura was not afraid, but never before had she been in such a lonely place without Pa and Ma and her sisters. Well, except for crazy Mrs. Brewster. The coyotes were far away and farther. Then they were gone. The slough was so far away the frogs could not be heard. There was no sound but the whispering of the prairie wind to break the silence. The sun shining in Laura's face woke her to an empty day. The little work was soon done. There was nothing more to do, no books to study, no one to see. It was pleasant for a while. All that week, Laura and Mrs. McKee and Maddie did nothing but eat and sleep and sit and talk or be silent. The sun rose and sank and the wind blew and the prairie was empty of all but birds and cloud shadows. Kind of sounds like quarantine. They didn't bring a book. They didn't bring a book. You're hanging out there. And wait a minute, when Ma and Pa, and they were hanging out on the clay, they had to plant a garden. They were cleaning. They were sewing up bed sheets. They were cleaning the house. They were fixing the house. They were repairing things. They were planting a garden. Why is it Mrs. McKee's not planting a garden? She could at least be putting in, like Ma did, little carrots and peas and things. She's just hanging out. I don't think she's cut out for the farming life. I think she should live in town. I think she'd do much better in town. Harumph, harumph. Nothing to do. Saturday afternoon, they dressed for town and walked 2 miles to Manchester to meet Mr. McKee and walk home with him. Okay, so that's 4 miles, so they totally could have gone the 7. There you go. He stayed until Sunday afternoon, when they all walked to town again, and Mr. McKee took the train back to De Smet and his work. Then Mrs. McKee and Laura and Maddie walked back to the claim for another week. So they are doing sort of the suburban commute things. It's a little harder to do it daily. They were glad when Saturday came, but in a way it was a relief when Mr. McKee was gone, for he was such a strict Presbyterian that on Sunday no one was allowed to laugh or even smile. Presbyterians? Well, back then, I guess, yes. They could only read the Bible and the Catechism and talk gravely of religious subjects. Still, Laura liked him, for he was truly good and kind and never said a cross word. Well, see, now that's like those early Little House chapters where Laura had to sit in her chair and study her Bible, and then they couldn't do anything. And now it's all very modern, even though they're very religious. The Ingalls, they were Congregationalists. She's like out sledding and riding around, cruising the boulevard in a buggy with Almanzo on a Sunday. Just pretty daring. And here they're saying back to the just read the Bible and sit in a chair. This was the pattern of the weeks that passed, one after another, all alike, until April and May were gone. The weather had grown warmer, and on the walks to town they heard the meadowlarks singing beside the road where spring flowers bloomed. One warm Sunday afternoon, the walk back from Manchester seemed longer than usual and tiring, and as they lagged a little along the way, Mrs. McKee said, "It would be pleasanter for you to be riding in Wilder's buggy." "I likely won't do that any more," Laura remarked. "Someone else will be in my place before I go back." She thought of Nellie Oleson. The Olesons' claim, she knew, was not far from Almanzo's. "Oh, don't worry," Mrs. McKee told her. "An old bachelor doesn't pay so much attention to a girl unless he's serious. You will marry him yet." "Oh, no," Laura said. "No, indeed I won't. I wouldn't leave home to marry anybody." She just want to marry anybody. Then suddenly she realized that she was homesick. She wanted to be at home again so badly she could hardly bear it. All that week, she fought against her longing, hiding it from Mrs. McKee, and on Saturday, when they walked again to Manchester, there was a letter waiting for her. Ma had written that Mary was coming home, and Laura must come if Mrs. McKee could find anyone else to stay with her. Ma hoped she could do so, for Laura must be at home when Mary was there. She dreaded to speak of it to Mrs. McKee, so she said nothing until at the supper table Mrs. McKee asked what was troubling her. Then Laura told what Ma had written. "Why, of course you must go home," Mrs. McKee said at once. "I will find someone to stay here." Mrs. McKee was quiet for a time before she said, "I don't want anyone." Oh, wait, did I miss a bit? No, I'm going to make sure. Bit of bathroom. "I will find someone to stay here." I'm going to make sure I'm not missing anything here. I don't know, 110, 111, and yep, that's it. There are pages missing in my book. I swear. No, wait. No, there's not. Okay. Mrs. McKee was quiet for a time before she said, "I don't want anyone but Laura to live with us. I would rather stay by ourselves. We are used to the place now, and nothing ever happens. Laura shall go home, and Mattie and I will be all right alone." Wow. So she did. Well, she's been there for ages. And I'm kind of, like I said, I'm not sure that this Mrs. McKee, although she's really nice, is cut out for the farm. She had a business in town doing the sewing and the dressmaking, which was very successful. And she enjoyed town. And to be out there, like I said, why wasn't she planting a garden? I mean, yes, she wasn't going to farm and they hadn't bought all the stuff, but why wasn't she planting the little lettuce and tomatoes and the peas and the garden stuff that like Ma did? And why weren't they doing the basic stuff around the house? I'm not hearing about Ma worked night and day. They were sweeping. They were making sure the holes in the walls were fixed. They were like, she didn't do nothing. She didn't do anything. That's not farm folk. She belongs in the city. But she's now gotten over her fear of coyotes, and it's summer, and ain't nothing happening. So she and the kids they're going to manage. Yay, and let her go home. So Mr. McKee carried Laura's satchel on the Sunday afternoon walk to Manchester, and she said goodbye to Mrs. McKee and Mattie, and got on the train with him, going home. Wow, wow, wow. So yeah, Mr. McKee said he would get her somebody, but she's like, "Nope, I don't want anybody but Laura. We'll be good to go." All the way she thought of them, standing lonely at the station, and walking the 2 miles back to the lonely shanty where they must stay, doing nothing but eating and sleeping and listening to the wind for 5 months more. It would be a hard way to earn a homestead, but there was no other way, for that was the law. She and Ma and the gang were on the homestead. They weren't sitting around eating and sleeping. There was the reading, there was the studying, there was the sewing. Curtains. Ma was making curtains. This woman doesn't make curtains. She's a seamstress. Where is the curtain making? Where is the bedstead and the quilt making? Where is all the reading? Ma would read Middlemarch by lantern in the evening. She didn't bring a book. She's out in the middle of nowhere, didn't bring a book. She did not planting. She's not. No. She should not be out on that farm. If she hasn't the sense to bring a book or at least make curtains, she should be in town. Poor lady. So Mary comes home. Yay! Laura was so glad to be at home again, out on Pa's claim. It was good to milk the cow and to drink all she wanted of milk and to spread butter on her bread, and eat again of Ma's good cottage cheese. She is into dairy, seriously into dairy, this girl. There were lettuce leaves to be picked in the garden too, and little red radishes. She had not realized she was so hungry for these good things to eat. Mrs. McKee and Mattie could not get them, of course, while they were holding down their claim. They couldn't go out and plant some radishes. I'm in Los Angeles. I can plant radishes. I got tomatoes and basil growing. I can plant lettuce and radishes, and I don't even have a claim. People got to get on the stick here. Oh, at home now, there were eggs too, for Ma's flock was doing well. Laura helped Carrie hunt for nests that the hens hid in the hay at the stable and in the tall grass nearby. Oh, so they got the chicken coop, but they were sneaking off and laying eggs all over the farm. Grace found a nest of kittens hidden in the manger. Oh, They were the grandchildren of the little kitten Pa had bought for 50 cents. That little kitten they got, not only grown up, this is the grand kittens. The grand kittens. And Kitty felt her responsibility. She thought she should hunt for them as well as for her own kittens. She brought in more gophers than all of them could eat, and every day she piled the extra ones by the house door for Ma. Ooh. I declare, Ma said, I never was so embarrassed by a cat's generosity. They do like to bring you dead things, don't they? Do your cats bring you dead things? Did I tell you about my cat and the lizard? She freaked me out. Clarice, my old cat, and I have a mortician, but old Clarice was a hunter. And the lizards would sometimes get in the house, and she'd kill them, and they'd act like weird. Did I tell you this about the lizard? She comes stomping down the hall with a lizard tail, a fresh, okay, it was like bloody lizard tail. It was gross. She had a lizard tail, freshly ripped off a lizard, and dropped it at my feet like, ta-da! And I was like, eh. And then I went, wait a minute. She's got this tail. There's a dead lizard with no tail somewhere. And it was a really, really big tail. So I'm like, okay, the lizard from this is like this, like huge. It's like this big. And it's dead somewhere in my house. Because she didn't go outside. Like, lizard came in the garage. There's going to be a dead lizard body in my house. And that's going to smell really bad soon. So I thought, well, how? How on earth am I going to find this? How am I going to find this? The cat has killed something and hidden it. She's killed this lizard and brought me the tail. What am I going to do? I looked at that cat. And I looked at her, and I looked at her, and I knew she understood me, so I looked her right in the eye, and I said, good kitty. Now, where's the rest of it? And you know, the cat looked at me and went, and I said, that's right. Where's the rest of it? Where's the body? Where's the rest of it? Bring it. Bring it here. Go get it. Go get it. Where's the rest of it? Go get it. Do you know that cat ran into the bedroom, went under the bed, and went and got the dead lizard and brought me the rest of it. She went and dropped it right at my feet. It was gross as anything, but I went, oh, good kitty, thank you, and then wrapped the whole thing up and put it in the trash. Had I not done that, and had she not understood me, there'd be a dead lizard under my bed. Cat understood me. I asked the cat to go get it, and she did. So, yes, but cats, they like to kill things, and then they like to bring them to you, because they're just weird. This is what they do. It's a present. Gross. The day came when Mary was coming home. Yay! Pa and Ma drove to town to fetch her, and even the train seemed special that afternoon as it came at last, unrolling its black smoke into a melting line low in the sky. From the rise of the ground behind the stable in the garden, they saw the white steam puff up from its engine and heard its whistle. Its far rumbling was still, and they knew that it stopped in town and that Mary must be there now. Woo woo! Ding 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 ding. What excitement there was when at last the wagon came up from the slough with Mary sitting on the seat between Pa and Ma. Laura and Carrie both talked at once, and Mary tried to talk to both of them at the same time. Grace was in everyone's way, her hair flying and her blue eyes wide. Kitty! Even Kitty! Kitty went out through the doorway like a streak, with her tail swelled to a big brush. Kitty did not like strangers, and she had forgotten Mary. Cat didn't recognize her. Weren't you afraid to come all by yourself on the cars? Carrie asked. Oh, no, Mary smiled. I had no trouble. We learn to do things by ourselves at college. It is part of our education. Yeah. She did seem much more sure of herself and moved easily about the house instead of sitting quiet in her chair. Pa brought in her trunk, and she went to it, knelt down, and unlocked and opened it quite as if she saw it. Then she took from it, one after another, the presents she had brought. For Ma, there was a lamp mat of woven braid with a fringe all around it of many colored beads strung on stout thread. Oh, look, here is Mary with her trunk. There she is. See? She's just like nothing to it. She's all like trained now at the blind school how to find everything with her hands. Like, what was it they teach you? Like, okay, your milk is at 12 o'clock and your juice is at 3, you know. And she's like, she can open her own trunk and find her stuff. She's exactly what she's doing now. It is beautiful, Ma said in delight. Laura's gift was a bracelet of blue and white beads strung on thread and woven together. And Carrie's was a ring of pink and white beads interwoven. Oh, how pretty! How pretty! Carrie exclaimed. And it fits too. It fits perfectly. For Grace, There was a little doll's chair of red and green beads strung on wire. Grace was so overcome as she took it carefully into her hand she could hardly say thank you to Mary. "This is for you, Pa," Mary said, as she gave him a blue silk handkerchief. "I didn't make this, but I chose it myself. Blanche is my roommate. We went downtown to find something for you. She can see colors if they are bright, but the clerk didn't know it. We thought it would be fun to mystify him. So Blanche signaled the colors to me, and he thought we could tell them by touch. I knew by the feeling that it was good silk. My, did we fool that clerk." And remembering, Mary laughed. Mary had often smiled, but it was a long time since they had heard her laugh out as she used to do when she was a little girl. All that it had cost to send Mary to college was more than repaid by seeing her so gay and confident. Not only is Mary happy and can do stuff, she's like a practical joker. She and the blind girl, who could see a teeny bit, if something's very bright, she and the blind girl went and totally punked the guy at the department store. They went, yes, I can see colors with my hand. Oh, I like this handkerchief. It's blue. Oh, yes. Let's touch the red one. Yes, I can tell. And had this guy going. Blind people playing tricks on guys in the store. Just Mary, our little poor shy Mary, out there punking the guy in the department store. Yes, this is good. This is very good. "I'll bet this was the prettiest handkerchief in Vinton, Iowa," Paul said. "I don't see how you put the right colors into your beadwork," Laura said, turning the bracelet on her wrist. "Every little bead in this lovely bracelet is right. You can't do that just by fooling a clerk." "Some seeing person puts the different colors in separate boxes," Mary explained. "Then we only have to remember where they are." "You can do that easily," Laura agreed. "You always could remember things. I never could say as many Bible verses as you." "It surprises my Sunday school teacher now how many of them I know," said Mary. "Knowing them was a great help to me, Ma. I could read them so easily with my fingers in raised print and in Braille that I learned how to read everything sooner than anyone else in my class." "I'm glad to know that, Mary," was all that Ma said, and her smile trembled, but she looked happier than when Mary had given her the beautiful lamp mat. Ma's gonna cry. "Here is my Braille slate," said Mary, lifting it from her trunk. It was an oblong of thin steel in a steel frame as large as a school slate with a narrow steel band across it. The band was cut into several rows of open squares, and it would slide up and down or could be fastened in place at any point. Tied to the frame by a string was a pencil-shaped piece of steel that Mary said was a stylus. "How do you use it?" Paul wanted to know. "Watch and I'll show you," said Mary. They all watched while she laid a sheet of thick cream-colored paper on the slate under the slide. She moved the slide to the top of the frame and secured it there. Then, with the point of the stylus, she pressed rapidly here and there in the corners the open squares. "There," she said, slipping the paper out and turning it over. Wherever the stylus had pressed, there was a tiny bump that could easily be felt with the fingers. The bumps made different patterns, the size of the squares, and these were the Braille letters. "I'm writing to Blanche to tell her that I'm safely home," said Mary. "I must write to my teacher, too." She turned the paper over, put it in the frame again, and slipped the slide down, ready to go on writing on the blank space. "I will finish them later." "It is wonderful that you can write to your friends and they can read your letters," said Ma. "I can hardly believe that you're really getting the college education we always wanted you to have." Laura was so happy she felt like crying too. Well, Paul broke in. "Here we stand talking when Mary must be hungry and it's chore time. Let's do our work now and we will have longer to talk afterward." "You're right, Charles," Ma quickly agreed. "Supper will be ready by the time you're ready for it." While Pa took care of the horses, Laura hurried to do the milking, and Carrie made a quick fire to bake the biscuits that Ma was mixing. Biscuits. Supper was ready when Pa came from the stable and Laura had strained the milk. It was a happy family all together again as they ate of the browned hashed potatoes, poached fresh eggs, and delicious biscuit with Ma's good butter. Well, sounds good. Poached eggs and hash browns. Pa and Ma drank their fragrant tea, but Mary drank milk with the other girls. It's a treat, she said. We don't have such good milk at college. There was so much to ask and tell that almost nothing was fully said, but tomorrow would be another long day with Mary. And it was like old times again, when Laura and Mary went to sleep as they used to, in their bed, where Laura for so long had been sleeping alone. It's warm weather, Mary said, so I won't be putting my cold feet on you as I used to do. I'm so glad you're here that I wouldn't complain, Laura answered. It would be a pleasure. She missed her, and even her cold feet. So that is awesome. That is awesome. So yeah, Mary became like super blind chick and could do everything, which is great. Oh, great. Did anybody ever learn Braille in school, just like as a thing? I started to, when I was in 6th grade, yeah, 10, there was a book. It's like you already know I'm old, right? You already know I'm like really old. So those of you who are old will probably remember this. There was a book when I was a kid that was the rage. Everybody wanted it, called Follow My Leader. And it was about a kid who goes blind. It's this little boy, and I believe it was a fireworks accident too, so 4th of July. It was a kid, he goes blind, and he was like into scouting and everything. He's like blind. And at first he's very distressed, and they send him to a blind school, and he learns Braille. He learns all the things that blind people learn so they can find their way around a room. The whole thing about the clock face, like at lunchtime, like, okay, your cup is at 3 o'clock, and your butter is at 2, and all this stuff. And he learns Braille, and they show you the whole Braille alphabet and teach you how to do Braille in the book. And then he gets a seeing eye dog named Leader. It's so cute. And it goes through the whole thing. He helps train the seeing eye dog, and he goes to the camp where they train the dogs, and he and the dog train together, and the dog is this German Shepherd. He's adorable, and he's so smart, and they name him Leader, and Leader, the German Shepherd, teaches him how to cross a street and everything. It's a lovely book. It's a lovely book. It's one of these like young, adult, older kids' books, and it's really Follow My Leader. I hope it's still in print somewhere. It's brilliant. And he learns all about how to be like a self-sufficient, cool, blind person. And everyone was reading this and going bananas. People were donating or raising money for seeing eye dog camps. People were signing up for volunteer programs to train seeing eye dogs. And everybody in my class was like, let's all learn Braille. And people were doing stuff. They were doing book reports on it. And then they would like blindfold themselves for like an hour to see how they could manage and try. And I had a friend, she blindfolded herself for a week. Yeah, it was crazy. She blindfolded herself for like a whole week and tried to like, it was absolutely bananas, but she was like, it was really scary. It was fascinating. She learned a lot, but we all started learning Braille, learning the dots, and like, it was really cool. So, no, I can't read Braille, but I remember like the first few letters and how it was all done and how clever it was, how it's all about 6 dots. It's all about 6 dots, and they just combine 6 dots differently, and ta-da, it is the Braille alphabet. And it was very good. So, yes, I was fascinated with the whole thing of being blind and how people got around, even before I wound up on Little House with all the stuff about Mary and everything. So there you are. Now, tomorrow is Sunday. And that's summer days where things start happening because, horses. So, yes, so Almanzo shows up breaking the colts. And when you break colts, that means that, yes, so people are starting to turn up here. So Laura and Mary are hanging out. But, oh, look, there's Almanzo. Yep. Almanzo shows up again. And things start happening. So Dean Butler Almanzo is reading on Sunday tomorrow because there's some more Almanzo stuff. And then, so he's getting summer days and breaking the colts. Then the Perry School, someone has a schoolhouse, another claim. So that's more school stuff. And then something called the Brown Poplin, all about Laura getting a better dress. And then I'm totally doing, so that's me on Monday. And I guess I'm Tuesday because chapter 20 is called Nellie Oleson. And that'll be Tuesday, and I'm so doing that. But then I just may do the one because then Wednesday, Barnum and Skip, and then it's just like massive Almanzo, so much Almanzo. So we will have Dean. Dean's going to do tomorrow, and that'll be Monday, and then there'll be like back and then there'll be a ton of Almanzo, and it gets romantic. But chapter 20 is Nellie Olson. I'm totally gonna read that. It's gonna be great. So yes, please take care of yourselves. I know it's 4th of July and people are like, let's have a party, but germs. So do be careful. If you do have people over, have a teeny tiny group, and you can sit further apart. You can sit outside. Outside is good. Outside is good because there's air and ventilation, and then when the germs come out of your nose, they don't go straight into somebody's face. There's the breeze blowing in some room. So stay further apart. Go outside. Don't get into a small room with people because it's like bad germs. So take care and wash your hands. Wear your little mask. Try not, no big crowds. Small, tiny little groups. It's gonna be me and Bob and the hot dogs and the barbecue. That's it. That's us. That's the burp. I have a friend who's doing movie night in his yard, but he's got the chairs set very far apart, and everyone sits outside and watches. It's very clever. So get creative and clever, and find things to do that don't involve sitting all on top of each other and getting germs. And by golly, go online. Look, you may have it in an encyclopedia or book at home. If you do not, go on the internet and absolutely archives.gov, Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution, and you can read up on them on the 4th of July, just like Laura Ingalls did. So, happy birthday, America. Happy 4th of July, and I'll see you on Monday.